to Munch Up Gaming. I'm Munch Up Gamer, and today we're going to be taking a look at LittleBigPlanet 2. Now, did you know that despite your Uncharted and your God of Wars, that this was the game that made me want to buy a PlayStation 3? Well, it is. In fact, after seeing some Canadians play it online, I decided that, you know what, as soon as I can afford it, I'm going to buy a PlayStation 3 and this game. And so I did, and after having played it for a while, I figured, hey, why not talk about it on the show? So, without further ado, let's get started.
Here's the narrative as near as I can tell. The beginning is a little confusing. If I screw up, leave a comment telling me what details I got wrong. The lore of the games is that every daydream and spark of imagination we have here on Earth goes somewhere when we are forced back into reality. That place is the cosmic imagisphere, at the center of which is LittleBigPlanet. You are Sackboy, or as the other characters in the game call you, Sackthing, for gender neutrality I suppose, and you live here on LittleBigPlanet. All is going well in your adventures created by the imaginations of those on Earth, but you are attacked by a vacuum that can somehow eat up imagination and manifest itself in the cosmic imagisphere, and calls itself the Negativatron. You are almost straight up murdered, but you are saved by the alliance of another planet called Craftworld, who want you to join their alliance. After beating Larry da Vinci's tests, you travel to other places in Craftworld, including a bakery, a factory, a futuristic place, an asylum in the jungle, then finally to the cosmos to fight the Negativatron and its army. The narrative is certainly better than the first game, given that the first one was just Sackboy traveling through the different worlds of LittleBigPlanet with no real continuity between the areas. I can also see that they're trying to give a touch of the never-ending story in this narrative, having a being that just eats everything in the world made of imagination. But why a vacuum of all things? It can't be something like people today aren't using their imaginations that much anymore, or an industrial society on Earth that is stamping out our creativity in favor of production, or even the modern school system, though having the arts chooses to make students create in a linear and specific way instead of actually being creative. It has to be a vacuum monster. I know this is supposed to be a child-friendly game, so you can't have something too thought-provoking, but any school kid will most likely relate to a teacher telling them to stop doodling in class even though they've already finished the work designated for that time slot. For what it is though, the narrative is pretty good and evenly paced with a satisfying payoff at the end. Enough about that though, let's move on to the aesthetic. Let's get the easy one out of the way first. The music is a bit of a mixed bag. Some of the music is great, but a lot of it doesn't have a solid melody to it. None of it was offending in the least, don't get me wrong, and it certainly was crafted well. It's just that most of the music that sticks in my head is from when you're not trying to concentrate on the game. I don't know if that's a fault in the music or if the gameplay was that good, but considering how many an old game have you focusing on gameplay and you still remember the music, I think I'm going to count it against the game in this case. Now, I didn't realize this until I was trying to record the game, but the resolution is only 720p. And before you go clickety-click in the comment section, let me tell you that I am perfectly fine with games not being 1080p HD, and I know that visuals don't necessarily make a game better. But this game is on the PS3, arguably the most powerful of the 7th gen consoles. This was an exclusive first-party game. How is it only 720p? It's only 2D, meaning that there's an entire wall they don't have to render. The details are there, of course, but they seem a touch pixelated on the larger objects. Honestly, in an age where everyone was saying always HD resolution, this game being 720 is kind of a letdown. Now, you can change Sackboy's look with various costumes, and any clothing or colors you picked up from the first game will transfer over as well. However, for the sake of this critique, I'm going to leave Sackboy blank. Why? Because he is meant to be a blank slate that we can ascribe ourselves onto. And I wouldn't want to alienate even a fraction of my glorious audience by putting my own self on Sackboy here. In terms of the color palette, I remember a lot of browns in this game, and that's not just because of Sackboy. The artists wanted to make this game look realistic, so in typical realism fashion, there's plenty of earthy browns. Oh yes, they do make levels colorful with pinks and greens and blues and reds, but for the most part, these colors are put on top of a brown base. And it has to make you think that if this world is one of such great imagination, why is the most used color in the game brown? In terms of modeling, it all looks good though, and some of the designs are really creative. I mean, look at Larry da Vinci here. Cardboard lips and a paper beard. His entire body is made of paper goods. I mean, who thinks of that? Although something I have to ask is, why does he look like that? I get that he's meant to be a parody of Leonardo da Vinci, but why is he made entirely of paper products? His personality is a decent parody, but why this instead of, say, a body that looks like it's made of Da Vinci machinery? Other designs are okay, with Victoria looking like a Victorian doll, or Clive Handforth of the Factory being made of office supplies, but I just don't get the design of Larry. Oh, and I don't get Avalon either. He's a sack person that looks like he's from the future? Come on now. Now we move on to gameplay. The game appears to be 2D, but it has a 3D element in that there are 3 rows you can run down. Okay, so we at least have that going for us, but the camera is usually angled such that you can't see it quite clearly. As much as the common folk hate 3D, I can honestly say that games like this would benefit from it, because then you could have a better sense of where you're standing in space. Platforming in this game feels weird though. You know how in Mario, if you hold down B and run, you can get a better jump? Well, while you can't speed up in this game, you can make a curved jump by letting you get a running start. This may seem okay on paper, but some of the models combined with the physics engine leaves the jump that you think you should be able to make without running, and then you get stuck just barely missing even though your model is so close to being on it. Now, I get that running jumps like the way they want you to make them would be beneficial in a realistic physics engine. However, it's a pain when you're in the flow and then have to stop, walk back a few steps, and then make the running jump and get back into the flow. Aside from just running and jumping, you also have the ability to grab onto things and drag them around, swing your arms around, swing your hips around, move your head around, and change your emotions. This once again ties into personalizing your Sackboy. And hey, if the platforming is making you angry, you can make yourself explode with rage. You can also find stickers to decorate the stages you're in and to activate certain machines. If you have the PlayStation Eye, you can take pictures of yourself for this, but I was too lazy to dig out mine in order to show you. If you have the PlayStation Move, you can use motion controls, but I don't have a PlayStation Move, so I'm not going to touch on that. There are also additions to levels that you can use, including mechs and devices. I'm calling them mechs because, frankly, that's what they are. In the futuristic world, you learn how to control robot rabbits, dogs, and mice, all of which have their own special abilities to attack and platform.
Screw you, Titanfall! I don't need you! I can ride the body of doom!
That just so happens to be allergic to electricity. Now let's get to those handy little devices. These are grapple hooks, grabinators, water spouts, and other similar objects. You can pick them up and they give Sackboy abilities he wouldn't ordinarily have. However, I hesitate to call them power-ups because they always have the item sitting outside a checkpoint, so when you die, you always have to pick it up. Speaking of dying, did you know that unless the checkpoint has the infinity symbol on it, you have a limited number of lives? It doesn't tell you how many lives you have when playing though. You'll know when you're on your last one though, because the checkpoint buzzes with red lights. Oh, and you share those lives, by the way. Yeah, as it turns out, there's 4-player co-op in this game. While you don't need to play with others to get through the game, there are some sections that you can only go to if you're in multiplayer. I'm with Yahtzee when it comes to multiplayer-only sections. But better yet, why have them in the middle of regular levels? Why did they make multiplayer-only levels separate from regular gameplay?
Because you can play online.
Sony says. Well, guess what, Sony? I was disconnected in the middle of a regular play with nobody online because internet for video game consoles at my university is shoddy at best. And it's summer, meaning that a lot of my friends have gone home while I'm here in summer classes, and so I'm stuck playing alone and seeing the opportunity for loot pass me by because you didn't realize that some people like to play video games alone? Yeah, lack of foresight. You can also create your own levels, working off of the imagination aspect of the game. This is a good idea in theory, but honestly, I just wish the designers had made more levels to this game. I get that the game has a potentially unlimited supply of levels with this, but there's two problems with that notion. Firstly, most people aren't professional level designers. Most don't know how to make a level stimulating and fair at the same time. Second, with the new console generation, we can't rely on those servers to keep on going. We just had the Wii and DS servers shut down, and I have little doubt that the same will happen with the PS3 servers in the future because everyone will be on the PS4.
You know, I like this game. I really do. But looking at it from a critical perspective, so much is holding it back that it's just not that spectacular. I have to give it a B. I mean, there are other platformers that just do it so much better. Even platformers found on the PlayStation 3 that are just so much better. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to get set up for my next review. I don't have a lot of time to record the footage and make a video about it, so I'm gonna have to race through the game. I hope I don't slip up, because it's time to bring the thunder. A blue shell joke.
Hey, if you liked my video, then why not throw me a like, a comment, and subscribe to my channel. And while you're commenting, suggest a game for me to critique sometime later.